Hey Nicole, there you go.
How are you?
Hey Nicole,
Hi. You hear me?
I think I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Oh, that's why my headphones aren't plugged in. There we go. How you doing?
Good. We both having some technical difficulties, huh?
Uh, I'm like, okay, but it's great to see you.
Great to see
Seems like
you.
you're holding up fine in all this quarantine and lockdown time.
I'm ready for it to be over.
You tell me about it. But no, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me and to answer some questions that are just tough for some of the men who are dealing with these situations, and they either because I was talking to a friend earlier, and he was like, "We got a lot of street lawyers." That's what he said, street lawyers, where you go talk to your friend, and your friend tells you exactly what to do, and you go down there like, "Well, my boy Johnny, he went down there with
This
for
is.
all his receipts, and they only gave him $50 a month."
Uh-huh.
So I do appreciate that you took the time out to come on and clarify some things and open some and just open up that conversation with us. If you give me a second, I had a friend who asked me to share this with him directly when I
Okay.
went live, so I'm going to do that quickly.
Okay.
Uh, if I figure out how to work my phone, I'm like a caveman sometimes with this cell phone.
What kind of phone do you
uh,
have?
I'm an Android guy.
Oh boy, that's why.
Here we go. Man, whatever. But how have you been holding up? I know it's a lot of craziness going on right now, and
It is.
how you've been keeping up with everything.
I've been, just gotta pray and keep faith. Sometimes your mental health can be affected because of all of this. So I
Mhm.
thank God for friends who can call and check up on you, family and things just
Yeah,
to keep each other accountable and
yeah.
keep each other up during these times.
I I had a had a I had to take the day off from work and leave work early yesterday. It was just I tried Monday and it was just like get this done, get this done, get this
Mhm.
done, and then Tuesday came and it was more get this done, and I was just like I need today. It's like I just need some
Yeah,
time to sit back and breathe and kind of process everything that's going on.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm self-employed, so I can't really take days off, but I've kind of just not been doing much besides
Right.
had a few court appearances and I've been doing them, but it just yesterday I was like so overwhelmed and I'm just like I can't, like my mind
Hmm.
can't process this, like my brain hurts. Like I need a
Yeah.
moment. So I kind
It's
of
tough times. I
yeah.
actually got great support from some of my Caucasian friends and coworkers. About a good five or six of them just reached out to me earlier today and was just like, I'm here for you. I support you, and anything that you may be going through. Um, talk to me, and that's been awesome. Really, just had that line of communication open. All right. I put the post up and I tagged the guy, so he asked some questions he should. But again, the goal of this was to just clarify some things. So I came with some questions that I prepared,
Okay.
but I have a friend who's supposed to be signing in, but we just had a big storm here in Philly and some electricity got knocked out.
Oh
So I'm
God.
not sure if he's going to be able to get on. It's one of those sounds where like the heavens just open up and it just like
Oh my goodness.
so um so anyone listening, I'm looking at it looks like I got a few viewers right now. Anyone listening, if you have any questions about child support, any questions about custody that you want to ask, please comment them right now. I see my mom's watching. My mom always likes to put her comment. I'm gonna put my mommy comment up. Hey mom.
Hi.
And my brother Marvin is watching. So good evening, brother. Good evening, sister. My man John is watching. Um, so my first question, as I kind of combed through the conversation that we had yesterday, I'm not yesterday, last week. One of my panelists, WAP, he brought up that, the reason that he ended up on child support was because his relationship with he broke up with his child's mom. So that kind of got me thinking, what suggestions would you have as someone that's in the front lines, on the front lines, have for a man who's in a toxic situation, but he's being threatened with child support or prevention to see the child. Um, that they're threatening him with that to stay in the relationship, so he feels obligated to stay. Let's get smashed over top of the head with child support. So, what would you say to that?
I would say that child support is not the end of the world. I think that a
Mm,
lot of people feel that, oh my gosh, you're gonna put me on child support, they're gonna ruin my life. And that's not that's not the case. Child support calls for um, consistency. It calls for, so right? Like if you get a child support order for $300 a month, you know that their $300 a month is gonna come out every month, whether it's
mhm,
bi-weekly, every week, you know that it's going to come out every month. So, sometimes you tell people, well, that's your obligation. You don't have to pay any more than that, right? So,
mhm,
most men are good. The ones that I come into, thank God, are very good fathers, and they want to do over and beyond for their children. So
mhm,
they will do over and beyond whatever the court orders them. But you don't have to, right? Like if that's what comes out of your check a month based on a court order, then that's all that you have to do. So I would tell people, don't stay in relationships because somebody is threatening you with child support. Child support is not the end of the world. You can actually go online and calculate it yourself and see how
yeah,
much that amount would be, and then think to yourself, do I want to stay in this relationship and be toxic around my child with this
mhm,
person just so I don't have to go to court? I would say no.
mhm. Amen to that. That's good. That's another thing that I had towards the end of the discussion last week. It was what advice would I give to someone that's kind of being threatened? And I think what happens is if there's a stigma that child support carries, right? Where people think if you pay child support, it makes you a bad father, right? And something I kind of brought up last week was the same way where if you have a child with a man as a woman and you guys break up, like you automatically kind of get tagged as like in a negative light. I know you're a strong single mother, but in a sense, it's kind of like, oh, she got pregnant by some dude, and
Yeah,
what was she doing? Out her. It's kind of the same thing with guys. You feel like once you get in that system, the moment you say I pay child support, people say, oh, he doesn't take care of his kids.
right.
And for me, last year, I was working at a job for the government, and I quit for like 3 months to just kind of breathe because I had a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went back to work, um, I got like I had 1,200 months of like missed child support because I didn't want to go down there and stop the payments because like my daughter needed the money and it was the beginning of the year, so I knew when I filed my taxes that it would get everything caught up.
Right.
Um, but like I went down there and I was like excited, like look, I'm back at work now. Here's my offer letter. Here's how much I'm going to be making. Like pay, like put me back on. Like I'm like, here, please
Right.
put me back on. And the employee from the family court said, you might be the first man I've ever seen smiling or happy to be sitting in front of me. Um, so so I completely agree with it is that you just said. I have some questions coming in from some of the viewers. I'm going to click on this one. It's from my mommy. My mom done commented. She says, how can you maintain a relationship with your child if their mother is bitter?
Go to court. I tell people all the time. Once the relationship becomes too toxic, that affects the child negatively. So you want to go to court to establish a schedule so that you can see your child. You want to go to court to establish child support so that you're on a child support schedule so that there's less of a contact with the other parent. As co-parents, you're always going to have to deal with the other parent in some shape, form, or fashion. But when you go to court, there can be parameters and guidelines put in place. I would
Mhm,
also advise people to try to do family counseling, right? Like even if you're not together, even if you guys are
mhm,
broken up or whatever, I would advise that you go to family counseling because it's or parenting counseling or communication counseling, those type of things, because those things help with the child. At the end of the day, it's about the best interest of the child. And so the issue is until both people can understand that it's not about you and it's not about the other person, but it's about that child, then the relationship is never it's going to benefit the child. So I was going to be about the other person.
Amen. Amen to that. I have another one coming in here from it says Jimmy Son, but that's my friend James. James says, what about children in different states? Is there any way to consolidate the child support order for the two children?
All right, so I would follow up with, are the children by the same mother, or is the question more so you just have two separate mothers, two separate court orders? How do you consolidate the cases?
I believe he has two different children by two different mothers, one here in Philly and one up in New York.
So then my question would be, why would you want to consolidate the cases? Typically, they don't consolidate cases when they are two different mothers, right? Like if the mother had, so sometimes people will just file different cases, but it's the same mother, same father, just different children. And so the state may, if the state intervenes, they may file the case, or mom may just go in and start filing different cases. They'll consolidate those cases, but they won't typically consolidate cases that have two different children from two different mothers.
Mm. Cool. Man, James was supposed to be the one that came on. So if you're watching this, bro, and you got the link, chime in. I can't explain your situation better than you can. So click the link, come on, and you can explain your situation a little better than me. If not, just text me, and I'll send it out to you again. I got my actual phone right here, so
is that really a phone though? Is that really a phone?
Don't do that. I'll click you off, Nicole. I got one coming in from John. John says, what can men do to level the playing field when women file for child support so the amount won't be so astronomical?
I feel like I'm about to sound like a billboard or something, but of course I'm gonna say hire a lawyer, right? The only way that you can ensure that the amounts are being calculated correctly is to hire a lawyer, especially when the state is involved. Because what I've typically seen is the state will kind of do what in Illinois, I should say, and specifically Cook County where I practice mostly, is that the state will kind of do what they want to do, and because the person is unrepresented, the judge is gonna just do what the attorney is doing, right? You can hire a lawyer, you can consult a lawyer based on what the state may calculate if the state is involved. If the state is not involved, I would still suggest that you hire a lawyer just to make sure that the numbers are in everything that the law allows for you to consider is being considered. That's usually where the issue lies. So, for example, in Illinois, we allow for credit for other child support orders that have been entered. We allow for some type of credit for health insurance. We allow for credit even if there's no child support order entered, but you're paying for the child's expenses or a child's expenses outside of a court. So if you have another child and you're paying the mom $200 a month just on the regular, or if you're paying for expenses and you're not accounting for them, you can average those expenses and then the court will give you credit for that too. So there's a lot of nuances in how to play with the numbers, because child support, that's all it is. It's numbers, right? But you have to learn how to play with them and use the law to your advantage. So to answer the question, I would say hire or at least consult an attorney that will run the numbers for you. When people come to me, I look at the law and I will run the numbers just based on, say things like, okay, I think she makes $50,000 and this is what I make. So I can run some, mock numbers just so you can have an idea where you stand in court.
Cool. And I have a follow-up for that. I know there's more questions in the comments. So Kiana, I see you. Marvin, I see your comments, and I'll get to them in a second. But I just have a follow-up to the question that John had that I had actually pre-prepared before I went on. And one of them was, what are some of the expenses that are factored into the amount of support being paid? I hear a lot of stories here in Philly where men are like, oh, I came down with all these receipts of everything that I bought, and they just told me that's all gifts and threw everything out the window. So what are some things that actually do factor in?
So I know, like I said, here in Illinois, if you're covering the child on health insurance, that can help go into factoring your child support. If you are paying for expenses here, those certain expenses for another child will go into consideration, not for just that child that you're going to be put on child support. But if you have two children by two different mothers and you're helping for the expenses for the other child, that will go into consideration. Other child support orders go into consideration. We also have something called when you deviate from child support guidelines. So there's an equation that they use to calculate child support, and if that equation comes out to $500 a month, and it literally will almost bankrupt you to pay $500 a month, you can ask the court to deviate from the guidelines downward so that you can get a credit for some other expenses that you may have, and to show the court that, hey, this $500, I can't do it. I know that this is what the guideline says based on my gross income, but these are all of my expenses that I have in life, and like, I can't do it. And so you present that evidence to the court, and then that will maybe, depending on what the judge says, the court will look and take that into consideration.
Okay, that's great. I didn't know that. So, because I was under the impression that, and this is again, like I'm someone that's kind of ignorant, and that's why I think you should talk to a lawyer. It's because I was always under the impression that you go down there and like I figured your first expense is your child, right? And that's why they don't factor in. They don't care what your rent is. They don't care what your car payment is. They don't care. You know, like my paid child support for my daughter, but I don't pay for my son. My son has autism. They didn't factor nothing in with that. And I was just kind of like, I just got like smacked on the head with this number. And then I got smacked on the head a few months later with a higher number. And it was like, what can I do, you know, to do this? So that's great to know. That was awesome information. Let's keep going. So Kiana writes, can you obtain partial custody and not receive child support? Some men forget about their responsibilities due to the relationship being over.
So can you obtain partial custody and not receive child support? So the answer is it depends on what that partial custody means. So here in Illinois, we have what's called, we don't call it custody anymore. We call it allocation of parental responsibilities. So basically, and I love the term and I love how it's applied, because it basically says, let's look at these 4 major things that we deal with children, which is healthcare, education, religion, and extracurricular activities. And let's see how we can partial those out to show who has the decision making. Most people will have joint decision making with all of those things, but some people don't, right? Like if you're a dad and you love sports and you're an avid sports fan, and you take your children to all the extracurriculars, and mom does not really care about it, dad can have sole decision making with regards to extracurricular. You can have joint with the rest of the things, and you still have a joint allocation. You get what I mean? So it takes the stigma away between like partial custody, joint custody, full custody. You know what I mean? So that's why I like it. So here, our child support is calculated. I believe in Philly too, when I was looking it up, because I do have a lot of friends in Philly that call me and ask me.
Yeah, so you're great at Philadelphia University.
I think
it's not Temple, but it's, you know.
Don't please. People with Android cannot comment on my phone. Like, that's not how that works. So when in regards to child support, the amount of time that you spend with the child is calculated into that child support figure. So if you have, I believe the number is 183. Don't quote me on that number right now. I think it's 183 overnights, or it might be 182. But it's either 182 or 183 overnights. You have 183 overnights with a child. That becomes a shared parenting schedule. So depending on your incomes, you may not have a child support obligation. So if we both make $50,000 and we both have the child almost 50% of the time, the likelihood is that we will not have a child support order. But if one person grossly out earns the other, so say one person makes $30,000, the other person makes $80,000, but we have a joint schedule, the person who makes $80,000 may still have to pay the other person some type of child support, even though they have a joint schedule or a shared parenting schedule.
This is one, and this is another one from my mom. I love my mom. She's so supportive. She says, what do you do if your baby's mother wants to dictate who to bring around your child?
They do it all the time. Trust me, it's probably the dads do it more than the moms, but it definitely happens.
I resent that. I agree that both genders do it.
Huh?
I agree that both genders do it.
They do. go to court, right? And ask the court to, because they can't do it. So they're not supposed to do it, right? Like, obviously, you don't want somebody who's selling drugs around your child, but if the other person wants to bring another spouse around, they can do that, right? People move on with their lives. So I actually have a case now where we are trying to work around language because, one of the parties has a tendency to constantly bring around different women around their child, right? And so the client is like, I don't like that. Like, I don't want that to be a thing that my child sees all the time. And that's valid. That's a valid concern for somebody to continue to see an open door of women come around. They're going to think that that's what women do and that's what they're supposed to do. So you can put in language in whatever custody judgment or allocation judgment that you have to say, or your whatever parenting agreements that you have to say, hey, spouses, if you're going to bring spouses around, you have to be with them at least 12 months. And then you can bring them around. So you can work around those concerns that people may have. But yeah, I keep saying go to court, and I don't want to sound like a billboard or like a an advertisement, but it's true. Like, that's why I have a job, because these are the things that people go through and they just can't work them out themselves.
So on that level, and I don't have a fancy banner to put up for this one because I just kind of thought of it while you were talking. Oh, Jesus, go away. So another thing that came up in our discussion last week is here in Philadelphia. So I know for me personally, I filed for partial custody of my daughter, and my initial date was in April, and then the actual court date was April of the next year. Mm-hmm. And so if you're in a situation where, something like that is happening, they're preventing other parties from coming around, they're preventing you from seeing them, they're, doing anything along those lines, is there anything you can do to get a sooner court date? Are there any ways? And if the answer is no, the answer is no.
Right.
But, I was just curious, is there any, things you can do to push the court date up?
Have you seen the child at all?
For me at the time, I did get a date in front of the with the temporary, with an arbitrator, the person that does like a temporary order. I got a date in front of them in about three. That was like 3 months from the time that I filed. I filed in February. The date was in June. So then there was 4 months I didn't see the child at all. But after that, we kind of enforced the temporary order from June to the following April when we got in front of the judge. And the good thing, again, I don't want to talk bad about my daughter's mother because she's an awesome person. We just had a rough start. Right. But in that time, we actually were fine. Like, from the time the temporary order came into place and the actual court order came into place, we were fine, and there was even no need to even go back down there. We just got a text. I was like, I'm not going back down there. She was like, neither am I. And they just made the temporary order permanent.
Permanent order.
So, okay. But for someone who may not be in that, flowery and sunshine and rainbow situation that worked out for me, is there anything that they could do to kind of push that date forward?
I would say if they haven't seen the child at all, then I would file some type of emergency motion for parenting time, or emergency motion for visitation, saying I haven't seen my child. Courts don't take that lightly. They don't take time away from another parent lightly because somebody is bitter or mad or angry, and it's not justifiable. So I would say definitely file an emergency motion. If the judge denies it, then, you tried, right? But you're still able to get in front of the judge and kind of say, hey, like, I want to see my kid. And it's a sooner date rather than a later date.
Cool. I'm going to keep on going down these comments. I got one from my brother Marvin. Marvin says, why doesn't the state hold the mother accountable for the way the money is spent? And the rest of it is, not the question, but why doesn't the state hold the mother accountable for the way the money is spent? I don't know if they can. And if your answer to some of these questions is, I'm not a lawmaker, so I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, so I get into little debates with people about this stuff all the time, because you got to think about it. Child support is for the child, not for, you think like, oh, if they get the money, they should put it in the bank and like it should be solely for the child. You got to think about a child's expenses, right? So if I'm paying $1,300 for daycare and I'm still paying for lights and I'm paying for electricity and I'm paying for gas and I'm paying for food and I'm paying for clothes, right? Those things add up. And most people be like, well, you got to pay for those things if you didn't have a child. Yeah, but the expense is different, right? I don't have a daycare expense. I don't have extra food expense if I don't have a child. I don't have extra clothes expense if I don't have a child. So the little portion that you're probably giving, probably $300, $400, most people, I mean, that goes to groceries, right? And then there's still all of these other expenses. So the court can't account for doing accounting on how the money is spent, because most of the time the money goes into the bank account with the rest of the money and it's going to get spent in the course of everyday business, right? You're not paying her every day for the everyday expenses or going half on everyday expenses. If that's the case, then you should go half on everyday expenses, and then you'll be paying more than $300, $400 a month in child support. So that's why, because you can't logically do it. It's just not possible.
Yeah. And I know I've read some things where, they suggest that the child support debit card work like an EBT card where you can only spend it in certain stores and swipe it at certain places. I personally don't I think that it is just me from a man talking about it. And it's probably not going to be a popular opinion with the viewers, but me personally, I kind of feel like anything that if I give you $400 a month and you go get a spa and get your nails and get your hair done, although that's not going to my daughter, that's making you in a better mental space to care for my daughter.
Right.
And, I get my daughter a lot. I probably get my daughter more than what the custody order says. But at the end of the day, it's, I don't like to even cloud my mind with it. That only does mess up my day. If I'm like, oh man, she done spent my money on some crabs, that's supposed to go to I don't care.
How do you know that's how she spent the money? You get what I mean? You don't know how much money is in her bank account, and then you're counting your little $300, $400, and it goes for men too. Because what people don't realize is that I probably represented more men who have custody of their children than I have for women, right? So these women are paying them child support, and the argument goes both ways, right? You don't know what money is going into your, that $400. Sometimes, that money could go into a bank account, and you don't know how that money is being spent. Now, if the child is not being dressed properly, is not being fed correctly, those are neglect concerns, and that's another issue. That's not a money concern more so than there is a neglect concern. And so those are things that absolutely should be brought up to the court.
All right, I got another one coming in here from James, which is actually a really good one. James writes, what do you do if they want to take you off, but the courts aren't open due to the coronavirus?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Question. I mean, so what I would say get it in writing. Right? So if you get it in writing, sign, you can get it notarized. Yep, these are being notarized electronically, saying that, the parties have come to an agreement, saying that child support is temporarily terminated from this date to this date due to the coronavirus, and that the parties acknowledge that. Then when the court goes back into session, you can give that to the court. The court can acknowledge that contract. I would still file something in court now, because the courts, are your courts closed, or are you guys doing things electronically in Philly?
I haven't been down to family court in a while, Nicole. I'm in a good place, and that building stresses me out, and if I gotta go down, that's probably why I'm bald now. But I'm not 100% sure if there's anyone viewing that knows whether or not our courts are open, or if you're able to contact them electronically or not. All right, he did comment. He chopped in and said they're closed.
They're closed. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And James, is that in Philly, or is that in New York, the one that you're referring to?
That's
He's on a little delay.
That's insane. You can't have any access. But I would get it in writing. I'll absolutely get it in writing, signed and notarized, so that when the courts do open, you file a motion, and so the courts can recognize that, so you don't have arrears. That's the last thing that you want. Have arrears follow up.
Yeah, so that's good. And if possible, would he contact the mother and possibly kind of like get some way to like I send you the money, just send it back to me, and then once the courts open up, we can end this order. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, you can do that too if it's being automatically withdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Rachel, this is my little sister. Rachel's one of my most consistent women viewers. When she texts me after every episode and tells me how interested it is, she writes, "What careers or positions can we encourage future generations to pursue in order to make the experience when going through the system better and to have better representation of those that are being served?"
Have them be lawyers. Encourage them to get into law. Specifically, the state's attorney's office. Encourage them to get into government, any legislative positions in order to kind of try to make change on the legislative side. All of it is about laws and how the laws are applied. We need better judges, for sure. So they can be lawyers and then be judges. That's something that will definitely help the stigmas.
Yeah. Cool. I got another one right here. This is going to be, this is one of mine that I made up. This is not coming from a comment.
Oh.
This one is me. It says, I wrote, does the court, oh, where did it go? Does the court really default to the woman as the custodial parent? It was something that came up last week in our discussion where one of the guys was saying, well, rather than me pay her $600, $700, $800 a month, I'm working, I have a house, I have a more stable living environment. Why wouldn't I just, why wouldn't the court just make me the custodial parent? So I kind of came up with this question based off of that.
I would say yes and no. So the reason I would say that is because, yes, because mama's baby, daddy's baby, right? Like that statement, I say it all the time, but it's true. Because the baby comes out of the mother, it's the mother's, but the father has to prove his paternity. He has to prove his fatherhood. He has to establish it. That's why it's called establishing parentage. So by default, yes, the mom is the custodial parent when you're not married because she is the one that is automatically known to be the parent, and then the father has to establish. Just like you don't have automatic rights, you have to, as a father, you have to go fight for them, right? Like you can't just say, for example, mom and dad never went to court, and they have a custody agreement, just verbal, and dad goes to take the child, and then mom gets mad and she calls the police. And the police are going to come and they're going to be like, well, you got an order to keep the child? And he's going to be like, no. And then they're going to give it back to mom because there's no order, right? You have to establish your paternity. You have to say, yes, I'm the father. I took a DNA test and I know that's my child, or I signed a voluntary acknowledgement, as everybody calls it, signing the birth certificate. And I know, or I didn't do either, but I know that I was the only one that could be this child's father. That's my twin. I know that's my baby. And this is my child. You have to go in the court to establish those rights. So I would say the default answer is yes. But once you establish those rights, if mom is unfit, those things can be fought for.
So let's stay right there. What constitutes an unfit parent, male or female? Like what constitutes an unfit parent? Because what I might think of as unfit parent is if my daughter is getting cursed at, getting called all kinds of profane words and things like that. But I have no. I mean, like I know there's probably some burden of proof, right, that comes into play. But what would constitute as an unfit parent?
Well, those things are unfit. The child can prove those things, right? Like if those things are happening, the child is telling you those things are happening. There's means in the court that can pull those things out. The judge can talk to the child and have what's called like an in-camera interview with the child to talk to the child and see what's going on. Attorneys for the child can be appointed to the child, and if the person is good enough at the job, they can build a relationship with the child and pull those things out of the child. So there is some type of burden of proof, but those things, when you're abusing your children, you're neglecting them, not watching them, they're having a number of injuries because of your failure to supervise them, if you're not feeding them correctly, not just clothing them improperly just because you don't have the funds to do it necessarily, but if you're not making sure they have the proper clothes when they go to school, those kind of things. Those are things that you would consider to be to make an unfit parent.
And well, just to keep going down that road, and again, anybody watching, toss me some comments. I haven't gotten a question in the comments in a while, but toss me some more comments. I have another one here though for you, Nicole. What are some underhanded tactics that you've seen parents do? Yeah, I see it in your face. But what are some of the underhanded tactics that you have seen parents do to kind of get ahead in the custody or child support battle?
So I've seen, it's not necessarily child support stuff, but even child support stuff, I've seen a lot of times people will continue, and I don't want to give anybody any ideas, right? But people will quit a job, continue to quit jobs so that the system can't find them. Once you quit the job, then they can't get anything withheld. So you'll be hundreds of dollars in back child support because you keep quitting jobs and you won't keep a job, or you get a job for a lower amount, or things of that nature. Like they're trying to evade the system, or you do cash business, right? A lot of barbers and hairstylists and those type of people that still solely deal with cash. It's harder to kind of pin down what they're actually making too. So they'll play with the system that way. But I've also really seen a lot of people with custody stuff. Like they really use children, unfortunately, to put the child in the middle to manipulate them. So to manipulate the process. So I've seen people send recording devices in their children's backpacks when they go to the other parent's house. All those type of things, or tell the child to lie, and say one parent is abusing them or hitting them or whatever, just to try to get ahead in the case. So they'll continue to call the police on the other parent, make false reports. I've seen a parent continue to file emergency orders of protection with lying allegations. And what happens is when you file an emergency order, 9 times out of 10, the court is going to grant an emergency order, unless it's just obvious that it's not an emergency. So the court will grant the emergency order, and that parent will lose parenting time for a while, depending on when the court can hear it. You're typically supposed to hear them within 14 days, 14 to 21 days, depending on where you are. But that's 14 days that you missed out with your child, and you're used to seeing them every week. That's a lot of time. And then if you get a lawyer and other things happen, that time can be extended. If the court needs more time, that time can be extended. So I've seen people use those tools to stop the child from going to their parents' house, like all types of underhanded things. Can happen.
I'm listening to you. One of the commenters just came in. His comment, I'm going to put it up here on the screen.
Okay.
But Derek, if you hear me, check your messenger. I sent you a link to come on. Derek, I know he's been going through some major custody issues. I'm not really too informed as to what it was, but he says, I'm dealing with a custody issue currently. First, she did not need my time with my son, then stated she felt threatened, and now due to both of these issues and COVID, I haven't seen my son in 6 months. Now, Derek, I would love for you to come on and kind of shed more light, because, you're on a slight delay behind what it is that, we're saying we're maybe like 10 seconds in front of what you're seeing. So I checked your messenger, Derek. I sent you a link to come on in, and you can have the conversation yourself. And I'm going to give the floor to Nicole to kind of respond to what it is that she sees. But it would be better if you came on and could kind of, have the conversation actively rather than us kind of, dealing with your comments. So go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, I would need some more information about whether she filed an order of protection. The fact that your courts are closed is really disheartening to me, because these things happen, right? Like there's already delays. Like we have delays and they're experiencing delays, and like all the attorneys are fed up with, the amount of orders and procedures that they keep trying to put in place. It's very confusing, but we still have the ability to access judges. I'm on Zoom calls with judges almost every day. I'm able to still advocate for my clients, still file motions. So the fact that you all are not able to do that is very disheartening to me, because that is going to happen, right? If the courts are closed, there's nothing you can virtually do to enforce your rights. If she's still threatened, and it could be a lie, but you got to litigate that, right? You got to go to court and prove it's not true. So if she filed some type of emergency order of protection, the order of protection in place, there's really nothing you can do without getting in front of the judge. And then the thing is, though, to not be discouraged, you can get that time back, right? Well, not physically get that time back, but you can get makeup parenting time with the court. You can get, it might not add up to what you've missed, but you can definitely get some more time.
What is makeup parenting time? I have never heard that term before. I have not.
So say you've lost the time, right? Like the time is gone, say if it wasn't 6 months. Because once you get longer into the months, I always question, like, how can you possibly make up 6 months of lost time with your child? But if you've, there was an incident emergency order and the judge finds that it was a lie, and you say, okay, you've lost a month or so with the child, you can add those days going forward. So say if you typically get the child every other weekend, you may now be able to get the child every weekend to make up for the time that you've lost. And so it kind of balances it out.
Okay, I was unaware of that. Look at that. I'm learning stuff myself, and I got no desire to go back down to that courthouse, so I'm not going to be able to implement it. I'm speaking that into. Oh, there you go. Derek just came on. That is awesome. Let me 1 second. I'm muting. Oh, okay. I'm muting. Oh, here it is. So I'm gonna add you to the stream, Derek. Derek, can you hear us?
Hello.
What's up, Derek? How's it going?
Yeah,
man?
I'm nice.
Oh man, I'm glad you.
How you doing, man? I'm sorry, it's a little light in the background, some noise.
We don't even got no video.
I'm trying to make sure you guys can hear me clear.
I hear you fine, but I don't got a video for you. But you have the floor.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Currently, I guess since about Thanksgiving of 2019, my son's mother and I had kind of been at odds on our son. Okay. She would try to send him places when it was time for me to pick him up, and find other things for him to be doing when it was time for him to spend time with me. Little aggravating things like sending him to a different barber when my sons and I go to the same barber. Mm-hmm. But recently at Christmas, when I was still working before COVID-19, she wouldn't let me pick him up so I could have time with him before I went to work that night. Later, when I went back to get him, she called the police. The police officer said he didn't want any trouble. He said I should just go because she's not going to release the child, and that we should try to work it out another day because the courts are closed. It was Christmas. It was a holiday, and I would probably be in jail for a few days if I disobeyed. So I didn't pick him up. 2 weeks later, I got a letter delivered to my door for an order of protection. And I was like, well, we've never had any physical interaction, nothing violent or anything like that. We've had arguments, but nothing physical and nothing threatening. So fast forward, because I don't want to take up too much time. Fast forward, it's now June. I haven't seen my son since Thanksgiving. And due to COVID-19, the courts are closed, and they basically leave that order of protection in place, even though it wasn't true to begin with. But she was able to get support because we never had anything in place. It was whatever he needed, I supplied, and that was it. But all of a sudden, I had an order of protection. I was in court for child support, and now still. All these things happened in her favor, but I haven't seen my son. So if you guys have any information I can use on my behalf, I'd appreciate it.
I would say keep track of all the time that you have missed, because until the courts are open, there's really nothing you can do. And I'm gonna look into it to see if there's any electronic means that you guys can use, because it's just hard for me to fathom that you have absolutely no access to the courts. So I'm going to look into see if you guys have electronic means, and I'll let Maurice know, and he can post it to whoever may need the information. But yeah, just keep track of all the time that you have not seen your son. Does the order of protection say that you can't call him?
Well, he's 3 years old, so conversation, if any, would probably be very light. But I didn't even look to see if I would be able to call him on the phone to talk to him. Because of his age.
Who's the order of protection against? I mean, who are the protected parties in the order of protection? Is it her and him?
No, she's listed, but he's not.
So do you know if he goes to anybody else's house? Because like you can't call her if it's,
right.
You know what the order
Now, I know he does go to her mother's and he does go to her sister's, okay. But they pretty much isolated my entire side of the family out of the equation.
Okay. So unfortunately, there's really nothing you can do right now, and just keep track of all the time that you have missed. But yeah, you can't contact her if the order says that she's a protected party. Sometimes the orders will say you can contact her solely for the purpose of your child. But if the order doesn't say that, then you can't contact her until that order of protection is dealt with.
So Nicole, I'll ask you: is there, if he's saying that the PFA is false or made off of false pretenses, when the courts open back up, is there anything that he can do to, kind of like? I can't even phrase it. I think you get what I'm asking.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's built on false pretenses, what can he do about that?
Hire an attorney.
That seems to be the only way to go. I'll do what I have to for my son. I can tell you that she said that that it was based on a comment I made on somebody else's Facebook, a birthday party comment or something. It was really very ridiculous because the comment was made regarding a party weeks before any of this happened between she and I. So I don't know where she got a retroactive, a retroactive statement to use to give her an order of protection.
Okay. So was the statement made again? Was it about her?
No, it actually wasn't. It was actually in regards to a birthday party and how we were going to be, how everybody was going to be enjoying themselves it was actually at her sister's birthday party.
Okay.
But she didn't want me to come, and I was like, well, I'm coming anyway. So, like I said, it was none of it was in any way threatening or dangerous. I know I'm not dumb enough to put anything like that on social media. Even if I felt that way, I'm not that dumb. But, she used that. But the party itself was 2 weeks before she decided to not give them to me on Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks later was when she filed for the PFA, which was in fact 30 days after the comment was made.
So have all of that information available, even if you just hire an attorney. I always say hire an attorney for order of protection because they're very serious. And most people don't know how to do them, and because they're very serious, you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row. So I would make sure you gather those comments if they're still there. Are they still there?
I haven't been on Facebook to see her sister's page where we all were regarding the party. I don't know if they took it down or what, but I do know the date, and I can always go back and look and see.
I would suggest that you do that ASAP. I would suggest that you just at least today, because I don't know who's listening. You don't know if she's listening and might try to go delete it, right? So I would suggest that you do that today, screenshot all of those things, and then go talk to an attorney about what your options are in regards to getting some type of getting that thrown out, and then getting some type of makeup parenting time with your son. Because if it was 30 days before she even filed it, then that kind of goes against the credibility of her allegation.
So Nicole, if you poor like me and you don't got no money, how would you go about hiring an attorney? No, I'm not. No, everybody else is rich, but I'm a poor father too. They don't got no extra money, and if you poor and struggling to make ends meet like I am. Oh, thanks for coming on, Derek. I appreciate you. But if you poor and struggling to make ends meet like I am, what options do you have for an attorney?
You could either find maybe a legal aid who if they're not so overwhelmed with cases, they may be able to take the case on. I've met some very great attorneys at legal aid who fight vigorously for their clients. And so you can, find a legal aid attorney if they have availability. Or you can find a private attorney who will accept payment plans. Like our office accepts a hybrid of taking a retainer and also accepting monthly payment plans from our clients because we know that it can be hard, right? My motto is as long as I get my money, I'm not to cry about somebody not being able to pay the retainer. You know when clients are serious about what they're doing and wanting to pay you versus when they're not. And so there's technology now that we can automatically withdraw payments from your accounts and other things to help attorneys secure their payments. So there's a lot of attorneys that are willing to work with you, take payment plans in addition to the retainers. If you have retirement accounts, you might want to draw down on your retirement account, those type of things. Take loans. I've seen people do a lot of things. Take payday loans, title loans, whatever they have to do to fight for the children. So people get the money when they need to absolutely get the money. When you're talking about orders of protection, you absolutely need to hire an attorney. You get what you pay for, right? So if you find an attorney who's going to take the case for $1,000 and you got $1,000 attorney, and you got to understand what that comes with. So yeah, attorneys can be expensive, but typically the more expensive the attorney, the more seasoned the attorney, can be, the more in the field the attorney is, and you're going to get what you pay for. So I would say even just consulting with an attorney, we have what's called unbundled legal services. I'm not sure if your attorneys in Pennsylvania are able to do that as yet, but here we have what's called unbundled legal services where we are able to offer. Maybe you can't afford an attorney to represent you, but you can afford a consultation. You can afford for the attorney to draft up your documents and legally consult you. I've had clients come in that they only could afford that. Typically, what happens is the client ends up retaining you anyway. But I've had people come in and I've helped them with trial preparation. I've helped them because trials are very expensive. So I've helped them with trial preparation. I've helped them with letting them know what exhibits you need to have and how you need to put the exhibits together. Kind of coaching, legal coaching, so to speak. We're able to do that. So if you guys are able to do that in Pennsylvania, then I would say try to do that. That may be the cheaper route.
I got one coming in from my cousin, and then shortly after that, I'll let you go. I didn't want to go much further past 8. So my cousin Sean writes, I had a situation when I was first put on child support. My daughter's mom moved to the county and filed for support and didn't tell me. It took the system a whole year until I was summoned to court. The whole time she was collecting welfare and medical, and I was giving her money. When I finally went to the court, I was $18,000 in arrears. Was there any way I could have contested that issue? I felt like I didn't have a leg to stand on when I went to court.
Yes, you could have contested that issue. And a lot of times people will find themselves, people come to me, all kinds of stories about arrears that probably shouldn't have been put into place. I've heard people say, well, they went back, the child is 10, they went back to the day she was born. That usually doesn't happen when you don't have an attorney. It doesn't. It doesn't happen when you have an attorney. So usually we go back to the date that the person filed a petition. You had this child for 10 years and you didn't file a petition until the child turns 10, that's your law. So they go back to the date that you filed the petition. So on the date that you were served, we typically ask, even if they filed a petition, it's an initial petition, you weren't served until a year later, go back to the date you were served. It's not fair that you have to go back. It's not equitable. It's not fair that you have to go back a whole year and you didn't know anything about it. You're steady giving this person money. And what I tell people all the time, please, anybody listening, listen to this. If you are giving somebody money, the other parent money, whether it's the mom giving it to dad, mom giving it to dad or dad giving it to mom, whoever the custodial parent is on behalf of the child, make sure you write down what that money is for. So if it's for child support or for, my daughter's name is Journey, so I'll just do her. For Journey child support, for Journey's expenses, child support. Make sure we have many ways to do that. Cash App, you can put memos in Cash App, you can put memos in Zelle. You can put memos on a check. You can put memos on a money order. Don't give cash. Do not give cash unless you write in a letter. You're going to notarize it. Both of them, which is too much. You can literally just send it in an electronic means and have a memo on it. So when you go to court, you can show the memo. It's not a gift. This is for child support. This is specifically for my child. Keep that stuff in the shoebox, right? Like that shoebox is for a reason. People, I hear judges say it all the time. Keep it in the shoebox, right? Keep all your expenses that you pay for this child and you say, so that those things can go against what the arrears are going to do.
And to piggyback off of what Nicole was saying, and this is something I meant to say last week, and I just want to keep it real with you guys. Like the two of the best ways you can protect yourself from child support is one, like you got to be accountable for your own actions as a guy. I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like, so there are certain things that you just can't do. Like if you're still sleeping with the mother of your child, if you're still sexually involved with her, and you guys are claiming to not be together, you need to stop it. Because the moment that you try to bring another party in, things are going to go south. She's going to be hurt. She's going to be damaged. So there are certain things that to protect yourself, you have to do. So don't have sex with her if you don't want to be with her anymore. Don't, call her out her name. Sometimes you got to take a L in an argument. Like you got to be called everything. When me and my daughter's mom thing was up, I got this real long message from her that she done called me everything but my first name in that message. And I just responded, okay. Like it's no use to kind of get into there, because you got to realize that everything that you say is like, the Miranda warning. Everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. So to protect yourself, you got to be smarter. You got to be passive. You got to take an L. Sometimes you just got to say, look, you got it. Sometimes you got to step away and find a friend, call and curse her out to your friend. Like somebody, a male friend that you trusted, you really feel that way. And then when you come back to her, just say, I'm sorry, I apologize. How can we work through this? And again, I said it last week, but sometimes just apologize, regardless if you feel like you did anything wrong. Sometimes that apology goes a long way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't work out. I'm sorry things, aren't better than what it is. I'm sorry that we have to be in this position. I think things got better between me and my daughter's mom. We were going back and forth one day, and I literally said to her, like, the next 18 years will be a lot easier if we get along. And she paused and she looked at me and I looked at her. I said, it's going to be a lot easier if we get along, if we're friends and we work together to raise a child. You stuck with me. I'm stuck with you. We might as well do it happily. And, like those are things that you just got to keep in mind. And to be frank, guys, like I'm going to put this onus on you guys. Like we are kind of like the catalyst. So the woman typically is going to follow our lead. Even if you aren't together, like she's still going to follow your lead in the sense of if you're calm and collective and get chill every time you talk to her, eventually she'll calm down. Like even now, if my daughter's mom gets mad at me and she fires off an angry text, I don't respond. And I had a couple of months ago, she sent me something angry and I just didn't respond. And then like a couple of days later, she was like, I asked you a question. I was like, you're not going to talk to me any old kind of way. Like, so if you want to talk to me, I don't curse at you. I talk to you respectfully. And that's a communication that we need to have if you want a response from me. If you choose to get, angry and belligerent and vulgar and profane, then I'm not going to meet that energy. I'm not going to match that energy. I want to, let you be in your kind of state and kind of we can come back when cooler here's prevail. Right. So there's a lot of things you can do before it gets to that point to protect yourself. The biggest things are, being self-accountable. There are also some legal things like Nicole was saying where, you kind of keep track of your expenses. I don't know if this is tough for Nicole. You could tell me, like having a calendar where you check off when you're actually getting them as an overnight. I think that's what they count, right? Overnights. Mm-hmm. Keep a little calendar somewhere where you just X off, had child overnight. Yeah. Had child overnight. Yeah. Little things like that so that, you're covered when you get down there. Those are some of the more legal things. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. She's a lawyer. So she can tell, more about some of the legal things that you can do to kind of cover yourself. And I'll give you the floor for that before we get out of here. So yeah, you take the part of that. What are some other legal things you can do to cover yourself? Or did I X that already? I didn't X that
No,
already.
um, just to piggyback off of you, even the non-legal things, I think with, like you said, accountability, but also consistency, right? Like, even if you're giving $100 a month, if you're consistent, that means she can depend on that $100 a month, or he can depend on that $100 a month every month. So, in the likelihood of them going, some people might still go to, like, well, it's just not enough, and I know they can give more than 100. I mean, that's on them, and that's fine. But if you're consistent, or you're consistently taking your child, the likelihood that somebody's gonna go to court and have the man in your business, it's slim. It's slim to none. So I would say accountability, consistency, like you said, that was really good, Maurice, that you have a calendar that shows how many days that you get your child. I think that's important, and it'll show the court that look, Judge, I have a calendar from last year, and I marked off every single day that I have my children. Those things matter when a person is coming in and say, "Well, he never gets his child." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, look, no, I got proof. I get them. Like, only a person who really cares is going to keep a calendar of days that they get their child. Like I said, with the money, make sure you detail what the money is for, whether it's for, you're just saying it's for Journey or whatever. Make sure you detail what it's for. Other thing, be careful about what you say. Like you said, I think you covered a lot of the things about just how to be accountable. I think I don't want to say common sense, but it's kind of a common sense matter, right? Like, don't say derogatory things in text messages, right? Don't say things that are going to incriminate you in writing. I don't know how many times I have to tell people that. Like, stop writing what you would not. Do you want this to be, if I posted this on Facebook, right? I mean, some people might not care, but if this is in front of a judge, and the judge, this is your life or death, and I say I have to look through your phone, the messages with your child's mother, and their derogatory is FUBITCH, like, you don't want, that stuff is not acceptable, right? And so it's going to go against your judgment and your character as a person. You don't want that to be the case. So watch what you say in writing. Yeah, and I think that's where that would stand.
Awesome. Nicole, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your quarantine schedule. I know you said you kid free tonight, and you could be doing a million things. You could probably be drunk somewhere in your bedroom. You could probably be doing, cooking, eating your favorite meal, watching your favorite shows, or whatever you could be. But you took some time out to come on live with little old me, and I really, really, really do appreciate that. I appreciate the time that you took to talk to some of my followers. I appreciate your viewers who are also watching and are also chiming in. I think your mom sent me a friend request, so I wanted to prove to your mom. I promise you I don't post anything crazy if your mom's still watching. But thank you so much for your time. Even though you're an iPhone person and a Philadelphia U grad, I do appreciate the time that you came and that you gave me. For anybody who may be watching that can contact you in your law firm, you go ahead and give them the information, and we'll go from there.
Okay, my firm is NMS, which are my initials, Nicole M. Scott. Family law firm. You can follow me on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram. We're trying to get our Instagram followers up. So my Instagram is at N as in Nancy, M as in Mary, S as in Sam, Family Law. You can also find us on Facebook at NMS Family Law Firm. And you can go to my website if you have any other questions or concerns. Right now, we're doing free consultations due to COVID-19 and the inability to be able to see people in person. So we're doing free consultations right now. So if you have any questions, this is now the time to contact us and ask us those questions. You can go to my website, nmsfamilylaw.com. And you can call us 708-794-6566. We are based out of Chicago.
708.
79.
Type that up. 794
6566.
6966.
6566.
566. All right, put that up on the screen for anybody. And I see Frank. I see Frank tuned in, and Frank
Hey,
just
Frank.
thank you. Yeah, Frank. Man, Frank. Me and Frank go back to third grade.
I know. I remember. Yes.
That's my guy. We go all the way back to third grade. And I just want to let Frank know I appreciate him for this connection. He's the behind the scenes guy who kind of made this happen, all the way from Hawaii. And I just appreciate you, bro, man.
Oh, that's where he is right now. He's in Hawaii.
Yeah, he's in Hawaii. He'll be soon to San Diego, but right now he's in Hawaii.
Ooh.
Right. So, but again, thanks you guys for chiming in. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you. We'll be back next week. I'll be on with both of my older brothers. We'll be discussing brotherhood and unity amongst the male community, and how to maintain that with both of my older brothers. So that should be an awesome, awesome discussion. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys again for chiming in. Love you all. Peace. Stay safe.
Bye.
And we are